Vajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Durlabhamanava Janama Satsange Tarohoe Baba Sindure Durlabhamanava Janama Satsange Tarohoe Baba Sindure Sita Tapa Bata Parisana Edina Jamini Jagire Sita Tapa Bata Parisana Edina Jamini Jagire Vivalese Vinu Kripara Durajana Chapala Sukhalaba Lagire Vivalese Vinu Kripara Durajana Chapala Sukhalaba Lagire Edana Jovana Putra Parijana Ite Kiache Parati Tire Edana Jovana Putra Parijana Ite Kiache Parati Tire Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Vajahu Hare Pada Nitire Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Vajahu Hare Pada Nitire Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasyare Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasyare Pujana Saki Chanda Atmani Vedana Govinda Dasa Vilasare Pujana Saki Chanda Atmani Vedana Govinda Dasa Vilasare Vajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Vajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Durlabhamanava Janama Satsange Tarohoe Baba Sindure Durlabhamanava Janama Satsange Tarohoe Baba Sindure Sita Tapa Bata Varisana Edina Jamini Jagire Sita Tapa Bata Varisana Edina Jamini Jagire Vipalase Vinu Kripana Durajana Chapa Sukhalaba Lagire Vipalase Vinu Kripana Durajana
Nanda Dasa Avilasare.
Bhajahure mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara
Bhajahure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Everyone together. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vansha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Om Hri Om. Wonderful. Oh, namaste, everyone. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you today for the live stream satsanga of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Before we begin, actually, I just want to make just one very quick announcement, really. Maybe afterwards I'll say a few more things. But what I want to tell everyone is that yesterday, very specifically, we had a very interesting, very informative, very good Q&A session on Discord specifically. The topic was Vedic guidance for relationships and marriage. And it went on for 2 hours. I gave a little bit of a talk, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. But then the rest of it was all Q&A. Basically people just asking questions, and me doing my best to answer those questions, and again from a Vedic perspective. And what was nice was several things. It was actually wonderful from my perspective. I'm sure everyone else's as well. First of all, we had an enormous crowd. It was very, very nice how we had a very good number of people who were there. We had quite a few women who were there. We had individuals who I recognized, who I know they are married. We had individuals who are single, but who are hoping to be in a relationship and or get married in the future, etc. So we had a good number of people. And the questions themselves were truly excellent questions. We are going to release this video. It might take about 2 weeks because we have a few other videos in the queue that we want to release first. But we will release this video again in maybe not this coming week, the week after. And when it is released as the full video, let me just tell people now, it's going to be released as the full video specifically on our Rumble channel, our Odyssey channel, and our BitChute channel. That's where the full video will be available. And of course, we will spread the link everywhere. You know, if you're connected to us in any way, then you will see the link. On YouTube itself, what we've decided to do is release the individual questions as videos, as short videos. When I say short videos, I don't mean shorts. They're not going to be 60 seconds or less. They'll be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. So we're going to release the talk that I gave for about 20 minutes and then the individual questions and answers onto YouTube. So that's how we're going to do it. But even when we release the smaller videos on YouTube, we will have links always to the longer video, the entire 2-hour thing. And it was 2 hours and just a few minutes. I forget, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. So it is indeed a video that people will want to see if they want to be in a relationship, if they are in the relationship, if they are engaged, if they're dating, if they want to date, if they're married already, if you have not been on your first date in your life, or if you've been married for 20 years. This is a video in which, again, we were so fortunate that so many of our students asked truly pertinent, very practical questions. So again, look for that, and we'll announce here, actually, with our probably next live stream when it will be available. So with that, very good. We are going to be giving a special talk today in which we're going to be talking about the 3 modes of worship. Now, as we know, worship is central to all religion, real religion. You know, I'm not talking about New Age nonsense. Oh, real religion in the true, strict sense of that term. Worship is central to all the religions, big and small, ancient, slightly more recent, etc., etc. And when it comes to worship, worship is something that is central to Sanatana Dharma as well. This is something that it boggles my mind how people can forget this, but sometimes people do. Because, of course, for Westerners especially, this is less so the case for Indian Hindus. Oh, they remember this. They know this. But for Westerners especially, we tend to forget that worship is central because our approach to the Vedic tradition tends to be via yoga or meditation or philosophy, Vedanta, etc. And then many other avenues, many other routes by which we come to Sanatana Dharma. But then again, it's easy sometimes for people to forget that worship itself, bhajana is the Sanskrit term. Sometimes people think bhajana or bhajan just means songs. Oh no, the term bhajana itself means worship, to worship. And that can be done, in a variety of ways, through song, through puja, etc., through prayer. So indeed, for individuals who go very deeply into Sanatana Dharma and take it seriously, we know that there is worship all throughout the scriptures, quite literally, from beginning to end, starting with Rig Veda. Rig comes from Rik, which means hymn of praise, so thus worship. So starting from the Rig Veda, through all the Vedas, and etc., throughout the totality of the Vedic scriptures, we see that worship is central and of importance. Well, what we're going to be doing today is looking at several verses from a very unique work. And these verses deal with 3 modes of worship specifically. But first let me talk about this work that we're going to be looking at, the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. And just for a minute, let me tell you what this is. It's a work that I can guarantee very few Westerners especially have encountered. And the reason why is because it's somewhat esoteric. Indeed, this genre of literature known as the Pancharatras are a genre of literature that the vast majority of Westerners who even practice Sanatana Dharma, they may have heard the term before, but they're not necessarily very familiar with this term. Well, you've heard me say many times before that the Vedic scriptures consist of many different genres. You have literally categories of books. You see, in other religions, you have one book, and sometimes it's tiny, and that's the scripture of that religion. Oh, not in Sanatana Dharma. We are blessed with a vast library, not a tiny library, a vast library of literature. Well, this is one of the genres known as Pancharatra. And what this genre of literature deals with specifically is many things. First and foremost, worship. Worship in the exoteric and esoteric sense of that term. So thus, the Pancharatra literature is an extremely deep set of literature, philosophically, quote-unquote, mystically as well. If anything, this is probably the reason why most Westerners have not really heard of this set of literature. It goes extremely deeply. Well, there are 108 of these texts, so 108 books just in this genre alone, known as the Pancharatra. And what we're dealing with here, the Parama-Samhita, is one of the most important. It is one of the most important of these texts. And I'm thinking we're only dealing with, again, this one little theme right now, just a few verses, just due to time. In the future, in fact, maybe even next week, I will continue looking at more and more verses from this very important text. But we'll start with this. And with that, let's now dive deep into the verses. What we're going to look at first is chapter 3, and these are two verses combined, 22 and 23 of the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. And these verses proceed in this way. Liberation is unparalleled happiness, without sorrow, without end. Therefore, for gaining liberation, worship Vasudeva. Do so without apathy, without desire for prosperity, and wholeheartedly. There are three modes of worshiping him: by deeds, by words, and by thought. And that ends these two verses. Well, let's dive into these verses a little bit, and there's quite a bit that's here, actually. Number one, how interesting. People talk about liberation, enlightenment, nirvana, nibbana, etc., etc. People will use all these various terms, salvation, and even from a Vedic context, very sadly, for many people today, other individuals who present talks, etc., this concept of indeed liberation, moksha, mukti, there are many different terms for this. Kaivalya is what Patanjali calls it, and several other rishis. It tends to be very vague. The understanding of most individuals, even people who claim to be spiritual teachers, is you do blah, 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 and listen to what I say, and do this, and you'll have liberation. And liberation is nice. But what is the nature of liberation? Usually they don't go into. Unless they're Vaishnava, of course. Then we can go very, very deeply into liberation. We can go into layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of what is meant by liberation. Well, here it's very nice that in this scripture it gives a definition. It begins with a definition in this section. Liberation is unparalleled happiness. Is that simplistic? No, it's simple, as it should be. Simple to attain? No. Now, the trick question, simple to understand? Even that? No. We can understand the wording, and it makes sense to us. We get an inkling of what's being said. But, of course, what is meant by happiness? You know, what do we know? We know that in this world of so many billions of people, where everyone, quote unquote, has their own truth, etc., everyone's a subjective being. You ask any given individual, oh, what is happiness to you? Oh, it's blah, blah, blah. What is happiness to you? They'll say the opposite, and on and on. Various people have different ideas of what happiness means in accordance with what? Their level of illusion. Their level of illusion. So thus, of course, the drug addict, you ask that person, oh, what is happiness? Oh, it's being high. It's sitting in my home alone being high. And you get the idea, on and on and on. So people can understand what the words say in English, but do people truly understand what is being said here? By happiness, of course, what is meant is ultimate happiness. Not just happiness according to Joe Schmo and this one and that one and, you know, Sally this and blah, blah, blah. No. What is that highest form of happiness which every living being in creation, regardless of whether they consciously know this or not, is seeking? That is what is meant by happiness. What is meant by happiness? That happiness which, once you have that happiness, your search ends. Not, oh, what's happiness to me? Oh, it's a bowl of chocolate ice cream. Yeah, all right, well, eat that bowl of chocolate ice cream. Now it's gone. Where's your happiness now? No, it is that happiness which, once you attain it, your search ends. That's what's meant by happiness. This is liberation. To find that which your soul itself has been yearning for, seeking all of your existence. So thus, this is the definition. What is liberation? When you finally have that. And what is that? That is spiritual liberation. That means to finally know oneself perfectly. How can you know anything if you don't know you? How can you know if you don't know the knower? So thus, we know ourselves, but then we know the self of ourself. We know God. And when I say know, no, I don't just mean, again, theoretically, oh, I understand the words, it's English. No. You know intimately. You know experientially. You are experiencing your true self, living as Atman, experiencing God directly. That's liberation. Now let's go on. There are some qualifiers that are here. So first, liberation is unparalleled happiness without sorrow. Without sorrow. So without the opposite of happiness. What is this world in a way? In the past, people were a lot wiser than now. This is why we've devolved. We haven't evolved. Any individual who in school, anywhere, has tried to convince you that we have evolved qualitatively, maybe meant well, let's give the person the benefit of the doubt, but was extremely wrong. We have devolved in so many ways. Why is this the case? A million reasons why, but in this specific case, people in the past lived real lives where they had to face the good, the bad, the ugly of this world. And they understood that, no, this world was not, sadly, always love, light, and laughter. But it is a world of sorrow. The Buddha tells us this. Oh, very famously. This is one of the primary and first teachings of the Buddha after he achieved enlightenment. But also all the rishis, saints, sages, etc., all throughout history have explained that this is a crazy world, and we experience tremendous sorrow in a variety of ways, to greater or lesser degrees. But what is that liberation? That sorrow comes to an end. That sorrow comes to an end, and not just externally, but more importantly, internally. How we relate to the world is changed in such a manner that we now have peace. So this is the first thing. And then without end. We have that unparalleled happiness without end. So eternally so. Again, the example of the chocolate ice cream, or think of whatever is your favorite thing that gives you happiness. Oh, it ends. It ends. It'll last for however long, a few seconds, a few hours, a few days. But it ends. The sort of happiness that is being spoken of here is happiness that is eternal because it's the ultimate real. And it's unparalleled. There is nothing higher. So, all that as definition alone of liberation. Let's go on. Therefore, for gaining liberation, worship Vasudeva. Vasudeva. Vasudeva is one of the names of Narayana. It is a name of Krishna also, but previous to this, it is originally a name of Narayana. Actually, that's known in all the scriptures, and it's described in many of the scriptures. So this is being very, very clear. Again, therefore, in order to gain what was just spoken of, that liberation with the definition and everything, no, don't do anything you want. Don't just make something up. Don't just choose what you want to worship. Again, these verses are about worship. What is it that we worship? Worship of Vasudeva, worship Vishnu, worship Narayana. So again, we're starting with definitions. We're starting with the very basics with these few verses. Now let's go on. How do you worship Vasudeva? How do you worship Narayana? Do so without apathy. What is meant by this? Be aware, be conscious, be awake as you're worshiping. Don't be apathetic. You see, it's sad, I do have to say this once in a while because I've given talks at this point throughout my life at, I don't know, 50 Hindu temples in America, something like that. I know many Hindu temples very intimately. I've been friends with Hindu priests, with boards of directors, etc., etc. And sadly, it's sad when you go to a Hindu temple and you will see the paid priest and they worship with apathy. Not always. Oh, there are some wonderful ones. I've met some wonderful ones. But for those who are Indian Hindus especially, you know what I mean. You go to the temple, you pay the priest to do a puja for you, and here's the murti, and the priest is offering worship like this. Apathy. Without that focused meditative awareness upon one thing and only one thing, and that is the murti. So that's what's being said here, that if you're going to worship Vasudeva, give your full attention. Let's go on. Without desire for prosperity. In other words, without materialism. Without materialism. Again and again and again, I have to explain this where we come up to little sections of verses that say things like this. And of course, in other sections, it also explains. In other sections of the scriptures. Without desire for prosperity. Oh, so that means that a person, if you want to worship God, you must be a pauper. You must make sure that you make the minimum wage or less. How silly does that even sound? No, what is meant by without prosperity is without desire for prosperity. The wording is perfect here. So in other words, oh, there's nothing wrong with having prosperity. I've told my disciples this, I've told people this thousands and thousands of times. As long as you are a spiritual individual and, oh, you have some good job, some way in which you're making $1 million a year, anything like this. As long as you are detached, as long as you understand that it is a gift of God and you offer some of it back to God, etc., then there's nothing materialistic about prosperity itself. It's the unwarranted desire for prosperity. In other words, this is the number one thing in your life, in your mind. That is what is to be avoided. And how else do you worship Vasudeva? Wholeheartedly. Oh, this is crucial. This is crucial. This, let me be honest with you, this verse, these two verses alone, we could just spend an hour talking about. We won't. But this is important. How do we worship God? Wholeheartedly. What does this mean? It means several things that you've heard me speak about in the past. It means that if you're going to worship God, you worship God, A, for the right reason. You see, how many people worship God, but how many people worship God, oh, because indeed they want material prosperity. Or indeed because, well, they're just part of a community and they know everyone, they're all friends with these people, they want to look good before, all their friends, and on and on and on. This is not how we worship God. We worship God wholeheartedly. What does that mean? That means that first we understand why we're worshiping God. We're worshiping God for the sake of worshiping God, interestingly. With surrender. Not merely to gain something. Interestingly, not even to gain liberation. Rather, we worship God because God is God, and God is our source, and we have love and we have devotion toward God. Thus we worship God. So, that's the first thing. Second thing is, of course, we worship with sincerity. This is what's meant by wholehearted. We have to be sincere. Our motivation cannot be mixed in any way. Rather, it has to be completely sincere. Next, we have to worship honestly. And I'm the only person that I'm aware of, certainly the only spiritual teacher alive today who has made this distinction. People talk about sincerity, 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 but there's a difference between sincerity versus honesty. We have to also be honest. A person can be a sincere fanatic. A person can be a sincere fool. A person can be a sincere person lying to himself. But to be honest means that you don't play games. You don't play games in why you are doing what you are doing, especially if it's something important. We're worshiping God. We have to be honest about this. We have to not hide the fact of who we are. Someone comes up to us and says, oh, I heard you follow this weird religion, Sanatana Dharma, what is it? As soon as someone approaches us like that, we have to be honest. and with pride, not arrogance, but pride. We have to say, yes, indeed. First of all, you butchered the name, but that's all right. I'll teach you. Yes, I follow the religion of Sanatana Dharma. It is the most ancient religion in the universe. It is a religion that helps me in every way imaginable. It helps me to find peace, helps me to know the meaning of life. It helps me to be successful in life. It helps me to know God. And yes, thank you for asking. We need to be honest. And I can go on, but we must worship wholeheartedly. Let's go on. Now it's finally mentioned that there are three modes of worshiping: by deeds, by words, and by thought. So you've heard me talk about these three modes many, many times in previous talks because they're found everywhere throughout the Vedic scriptures. These are the three, let's say, modes of action, modes in which we do things. So what we think, what we say, what we actually do. Well, it's interesting that here, these three modes of doing are now taken and now they're applied to worship. So let's go on now to the next verses where it will be explained how we worship in accordance with these three modes. Very good. So now we're going to be looking at, again, Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. This is chapter 3 and verses 24 to 26. And it proceeds in this way. These three modes of worship result in greater and greater good, respectively. Offering healing oils, flowers, and things accepted by the good as being pure, and with authorized mantras is described as sacrifice by deed, karma yagya. Being pure and becoming calm, as well as the recitation of prayers and mantras with devotion, constitute sacrifice by word. All right, so now of these three modes, two are being described here. In case it's not clear, it will become clear. So first of all, these three modes of worship result in greater and greater good respectively. So in other words, with these three modes, with each of them, one is better than the other, one is better than the previous two. So they're not all equal. Indeed. Philosophically, we could give quite literally, this is not an exaggeration. This is in brevis. This is in brief. We could give a 12-hour talk about how nothing in existence, perceivable or conceivable, is equal. Equality is an impossibility, an ontological impossibility. But that's going to be a different 12-hour talk in the future. But with these modes also, indeed, one is better than the first, and the last is better than the previous two. So now let's go through this a little bit. So first of all, now we're at first describing worship via the mode of action, of doing, of deed. So, by offering healing oils, and healing oils, this is exactly the translation, and this is exactly what it means. In the past, healing oils, ointments, were considered to be something sacred, actually. The making of them was considered to be something sacred. The application of them was something sacred, to the point where, and this is done to this day in many Hindu temples, Vedic temples, people may not be aware of this, that you offer certain oils to the murti, but they are healing oils. They have very specific purposes. So that's what's being said here. Offering healing oils, flowers, and things accepted by the good as being pure. Let's pause there for a second. All the things that are offered to God must of necessity be pure. What does that mean? That means that they are sattvic in every way. And I'm not going to go deeply into what's meant by that. We've talked about sattva, rajas, tamas many, many times. But they must be pure in accordance with whom? In accordance with by the good. So in other words, those individuals who are in a position to know, those individuals who are sages, who are rishis, etc., what they say is pure, by definition, is pure. So pure things must be offered, and with authorized mantras. So again, mantras that we make up. Here I am, a New Age crystal healer, and I like the sound of this string of words put together. It just kind of sounds nice to me. I just made them up. In fact, they're not even words, they're just noises. No. No, authorized mantras. In other words, real mantras. In other words, mantras that are revealed in the Vedic scriptures. So those must be there as well. So all of this is described as sacrifice or worship by deed, by actual action. Now let's go on. Now what's being described is worship by word. Being pure and becoming calm. Let's stop there. Let's stop there. Now, in order to worship in accordance with this second mode, you see, they're not equal. One leads to the other, leads to the other. And one, not only are they sequential, but they go deeper and deeper. This is making this quite clear. Before you even worship via the worship of word, of your actual words, first you have to become pure and calm. So by becoming pure, and how do you become pure? Well, the previous mode of worship, and by becoming calm. So in other words, it must come to the point where one already has a calm mind. See, what's meant by calm? First and foremost, a calm mind. Calm body? Oh, if you have a calm mind, you'll have a calm body. If you have a calm mind, you are able to sit in silence for a very long time, whereas another person would be bored after 60 seconds. With a calm mind, you have the ability to sit quietly for however long is necessary for whatever you're doing. So being pure and becoming calm, as well as the recitation of prayers and mantras with devotion, this constitutes sacrifice by word, worship by word. So indeed, this is what constitutes word, prayer and mantra, prayer and mantra. Again, I've said this many, many times that in Sanatana Dharma, we very much believe in prayer, just as much as any religion, in fact, even more so. You want to find some of the richest, most beautiful, most heartfelt prayers that you've ever heard or read in your life? Read the Vedic scriptures. Read the prayers of Brahma to Lord Krishna. Read so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of prayers that are there. So we believe in praying, and both formalized prayer, but also just heartfelt prayer that you can do as a person. You're troubled somehow by something. You truly need something. You can pray. Prayer is very important. And mantra, by reciting mantras. We know that this is the very heart of Vedic sadhana, of Vedic meditation. People who, New Age people on, YouTube or wherever, who go back and forth and debate, what's the best meditation? What's the best? I have the best. Oh, no, I have the best meditation. No, give me $50 and I'll reveal to you the best meditation. And on and on. Here, you see this flower? You have to meditate upon it. Blah, blah, blah. No, throughout the totality of the Vedic corpus, that is the scriptural foundation of Sanatana Dharma, also upon which later was based Buddhism and Jainism and Sikhism, etc., 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 Zoroastrianism. What is the number one form of meditation? Mantra meditation. Om Namo Narayanaya. You meditate upon pure mantra, true mantra, the names of God. And by doing this, how? With devotion. Not just in any way. It is amazing. Once in a while, we will encounter nobodies, truly, sadly, an individual who, they've been, quote unquote, studying Vedic things for 2 years. And of course, they'll start up some YouTube channel and they'll try to downplay the importance of bhakti in their understanding of yoga or Sanatana Dharma or Vedanta. And let me just ask people a theoretical question. People who have been with us for years, watching the live stream, watching the videos that we've put up on YouTube for how long has it been now? 16, 17 years since, maybe a year after YouTube started. All of the lectures I've given. How prevalent is it in the Vedic scriptures that devotion is mentioned? It's everywhere. And yet you'll have little nobodies, Jack Sprack, whatever, who started a YouTube channel a year ago, some 25, 29-year-old guy. And, he became somehow inspired to try to make money. And he'll go on and on about how, oh, devotion, no, 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 that's of no importance. No, 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 no. That's not my understanding of the Yoga Sutras. That's not where it does mention devotion. Ishvara pranidhana. It mentions devotion. Oh, that's not my understanding. No, devotion is omnipresent throughout the Vedic scriptures. And this is how we know God. And here also, with devotion. It's not enough to just be a parrot. And just like a parrot, recite mantra, but without that love. No, we have to have that inner quality of love when we recite mantra. So all this being said, that is what constitutes worship by word. Now finally, we're almost done here. We have one more verse to look at. Let me just check. Yes, indeed. We have only one more verse to look at. And this is Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. It is chapter 3, verse 27. And this now ends this section. Offering up the essence of one's very self, and worship offered according to prescription of the Shastras by exclusively mental means is declared to be the worship by the mind, O Brahma. Each of these is regarded as of three kinds of worship according to the power it calls forth. So now the last mode of worship is being described here. Oh, and it's being described powerfully. Again, of these three modes, they're not equal. It is being made very clear here, and this is God speaking actually to Brahma. This is actually God speaking to Brahma. And it's made very clear that that worship which is manasa seva, which is worship, which is service within the mind, is the highest. So let's look through this. Offering up the essence of one's very self. This is beautiful. This is prapatti. This is sharanagati. This is what is meant by self-surrender. That this is the highest form of worship. You know, we can worship. What do we do when we worship? You know, here's a very easy question for a, let's say, professor of religious studies. What is the common denominator of worship? You offer. You offer. Whatever the religion is. Doesn't even have to be Sanatana Dharma. What are you doing? You're offering. When we do puja, everyone witnessed me doing a puja. What was I doing? Offering, 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 offering things. Why do we do this? Is it symbolic? Sure, it's symbolic, but it's deeper than that. Each thing that is being worshipped that is being offered has meaning, has significance. But more, puja is a meditation in which, when we are offering things in the mind of the individual doing the puja, should be this: that God, I am offering this insignificant little thing unto you, which you are the source of anyway. I'm offering you a little lamp. You are greater than an infinite number of suns rising in the sky simultaneously. What am I offering you? A nice scent? You are the creator of the earth. What has greater scent than the earth? What am I offering you? Water? You are the source of every ocean. No, I'm not actually offering you these things. This is symbolic. I am actually offering you myself. This is what we're saying when we're doing worship. So thus, this one clause is just beautiful. Offering up, interestingly, this is what this clause decides to say. Not just offering one's self, one's very self, the essence of one's very self. In other words, the very best that you have within you, we offer to God. What is the very best that we have within us? What do we have? Do we have strength? Do we have courage? Fearlessness? Do we have goodness? Goodness. That when we see someone being abused, we run there and we do what we can to stop that abuse. What do we have within us? Do we have compassion? Do we have empathy? Etc., etc., etc. The very best, the essence of who we are, is what we offer to God. Now let's go on. And worship offered according to the prescription of the Shastras. Let's stop there. So again and again and again, this is the epistemic clause of this verse. Again, for the little schlub in California who started his YouTube channel, 2 years ago, and who says, oh, no, 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 the Vedic scriptures aren't inherently sacred in any way. They're just the speculations of oh, yes, great yogis who experimented on themselves, but, oh, I could do the same thing. I could write my own Shastra. On and on and on, blathering like a fool. No, the Vedic scriptures again and again and again and again and again and again, shall I go on, make it clear that the way that we know anything of vital importance philosophically, spiritually, or in spiritual practice is via this word, Shastra, that is, the Vedic scriptures themselves. The Vedic scriptures themselves. The Vedic scriptures are not just a book like some book written by your favorite New Age author who appeared on Oprah Winfrey, on the Oprah Book Club. No, these are the perfect source of transcendental knowledge. So, according to the prescription of the Shastras, by exclusively mental means. Now, let's stop here. Indeed, Manasa Seva, Manasa Bhajana, there are several different terms for this. That is, worship via the mind. And this gets to be very technical. The truth of the matter is, this is a form of sadhana that I have studied and practiced for all my life. And it's something that goes very deeply, where we worship not just physically, but in meditation. That is, we can worship God in such a manner that it seems externally like we're not moving. It seems like we're not reciting mantra. But internally, we are quite literally offering worship to God. We are in communion with God deep within, silently, in meditation. This is what is being spoken of here. So, what is said here is that this is the mental means, and it is declared to be worship by the mind. And again, this is God himself who is speaking. Indeed, this is Vishnu, and there are several reasons why this is called the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. One of which is that Parama means the highest. Samhita is a form of literature. It can be something that you can recite, something that is somewhat song-like, etc. There are certain qualifications that make something a Samhita. But Parama is also one of the names of Vishnu. And in this specific book, it is Vishnu by the name Parama, that is the highest, who is speaking to Brahma. So again, this is not just not just anyone saying all this, making these pronouncements. This is God himself. And thus he is addressing Brahma. And then finally, each of these is regarded as of three kinds of worship according to the power it calls forth. So in other words, again, there is distinction. They call forth different forms of, we could say, power, of Shakti. They each have a different effect. And of the three, again, it is to answer someone's question, which someone I'm sure will eventually ask this. Oh, are we meant to follow this in sequence? Yes, but we don't leave the previous one behind. We don't abandon it. So in other words, oh yes, we start with deed, and then we progress to word. We're now doing word and deed. Then we progress to mind. Now we're doing all three. But in Manasa meditation, oh yes, there's mind alone. But we are in our daily life doing all three. But of the three, the last is the highest. The last is the most powerful form of worshipful sadhana. Very good. All right. Very nice. Well, we're going to stop here for now. Sadly, we will not be able to take questions and answers because, of course, we're a little bit past the hour. And I try to limit this to 1 hour. It usually doesn't work. Even now we're 6 minutes over. But we're not going to have time, unfortunately, for questions and answers. Rather, we will stop here, and we're going to do what ended up being a nice little surprise for everyone, including our congregation here, actually. We have, let me first tell you, we have an individual visiting us from Australia. Can I tell people your first name?
Yes.
Yes. His name is Mitch. He has been associated with the ISDS for about 10 years, right? Since around 2014, something like that. And let me tell you, he is Australian. If you hear him speak, you'll know. He's a serious Australian. I won't say where he's from in Australia or anything. And then he lived in Canada for some time. This is his second time visiting us here in Omaha. He was here about 6 or 7 years ago. Now he's been back in Australia. Now, again, he's visiting us again. So indeed, we've known Mitch for about 10 years, something like that. And in all that time, even though the vast majority of the time, he has been, pretty far away geographically. He's only visited us twice for, a few weeks at a time, something like that. The faithfulness that Mitch has had in those years, despite that geographic distance, has astounded me, actually. He has always gone out of his way to stay in touch with the ISDS and with me specifically, through a variety of means, messenger, texting, this, that, all sorts of things, email. And it has always just humbled me and amazed me, his sincerity. And let me tell you a little something else about Mitch, which I'm sure he doesn't mind if I tell people what is his, let's say, his love in life. In addition to Krishna, in addition to Sanatana Dharma, he is a serious boxer. He is I forget, are you welterweight? What are you?
My next fight's at welterweight.
Okay, very good.
Between super middleweight and welterweight.
All right.
Like 3 weight classes.
You're in 3 weight classes. Okay, very good.
I'm trying that welterweight.
Your next fight is going to be welterweight.
Yes.
All right, very good. And let me tell you, Mitch is not someone who dabbles in boxing. He is a boxer. He is in constant training, and his goal is to become world champion. And I believe that he will become world champion someday soon. So with that, the reason why I'm speaking about all this is that I am going to, and it's my privilege and honor, to give Mitch initiation today. So with that, Krishna Prasada, since you're close, could you please grab both of those beads for me, the Japa Mala and the Kunti Mala? Very good, thank you. And one more very practical thing. This light, maybe you can move it just all the way over so that Mitch can come here safely. Yeah, but still have it face this way. Yeah, perfect, just like that. Very nice. And these are beads that I've already consecrated. Indeed, at one point before the live stream, I ran to my office and I meditated upon these beads. People may have seen I disappeared suddenly for a little while. And with that, Mitch, you may be partially on camera. I hope that's okay. Yeah, please feel free to come over here and just watch out for all the equipment and everything. Feel free to just come as close as you can and just, you can sit down very nicely. So again, Mitch, you're someone whose sincerity I have absolutely no doubt in. You're someone who has been with us for quite some time, and it is my honor to give you initiation. As is part of the formal process, I always explain a little bit about what initiation means. You meditate every day. In fact, it's funny, again, if you don't mind me telling people, I asked Mitch when I spoke to him earlier, do you meditate? Do you do the mantra every day? And he said something like, no, Acharya, 3 times a day. He meditates 3 times a day. So that is absolutely wonderful. What it means to be initiated is that, of course, you become disciple of the Guru. And it's not merely that you're continuing with the sadhana, but now you're doing so under direction. Now you're doing so with empowerment as well. So this is the idea of initiation. And indeed, the relationship that we have after this will be much closer, where I will guide you personally in all of your spiritual endeavors, etc. And, I know this already, but yes, you must follow all the regulative principles, and there are many of them. And you are doing this already, which I know. And understanding all this, are you ready to receive initiation?
Yes.
Very good. Now, if you can, come very close to me. I'm going to whisper into your right ear. Om Namo Narayana. And now give me your right hand. these are the beads that you will meditate upon. And these are the beads that you'll wear around your neck. You can wear them either 2 times, 3 times, however is comfortable. When you're having a fight, you can take them off, leave them behind, because you don't want them to get harmed.
Can I take them to the ring?
You can take them with you, absolutely. But again, you're fighting.
Take them off.
Yeah, take them off, because you don't want. Yeah, they're delicate. So come a little close to me. And I'll just put them on like this for now. Again, they should, if you want, they can wrap around 3 times. So this is just for now. Now stay here for one moment. Very good. You also receive a spiritual name, and you have just received the most appropriate spiritual name. Your spiritual name is Hanuman.
Thank you.
One of the greatest of warriors. Hanuman, we know all sorts of stories. Hanuman, when Rama wanted to build the bridge from the southern tip of India to Lanka, he had his armies, and he had several allied armies, take boulders and throw them into the ocean so that the bridge would eventually be there. And that bridge is still there. You can see it from space through satellites. Hanuman didn't play games. He would go to the tops of mountains and break off the tops of mountains, literally flying, bring them and throw them in. That's how strong Hanuman is. Your name is Hanuman, and may he inspire you always. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, you may sit back down. How's that for a name? All right. What did you say? You have to say it out loud now.
A really bad joke.
I thought it was good.
What?
I said throw no punches.
Throw no punches. Throw no punches. Yes.
Can I say something?
Yes.
About the second Shastra I read was reminder. My favourite punch in all fighting was, you remember it, there was a massive Rakshasa went giant, and Hanuman kind of expanded himself and knocked his head off with one punch. I just remember reading it, that was always my favourite. So when you said Hanuman, I was like, I've always liked Hanuman.
Very good. Wonderful. Yeah, Hanuman, oh, he can do so many things. Number one, he is a bhakta. That's number one. He is a great devotee. That's the most important thing. But also, he has mystic siddhas. He has the ability to expand himself. Yes, he can become as big as a mountain, or he can do the opposite. So he has all of these ashta siddhas. You know, he has ashta siddhis. He has the ability to perform all sorts of mystic feats. So it's truly amazing. So with that, again, I told people we would have a little bit of a surprise. And as it is, we're having all sorts of nice comments coming in of people congratulating you. In fact, give me one moment. I know we're over time. I know. But let me just read a few of these. So, someone says, I won't give names, someone says, I don't think I've ever witnessed an initiation before. Congratulations, Mitch. Someone else says, congratulations, new god brother, Hanuman. Yes. And again, congratulations. Someone says, Jaya Mitch, Jaya Hanuman. And lots of Jaya Hanuman, Jaya Hanuman. Very nice. Wonderful. Initiation is always a very happy event. So with that, again, we're going to stop here. Please join us again next Sunday for our next live stream. And again, we may continue with more verses from the Parama-Samhita Pancharatra. And if so, I'll make sure that there are less verses. We'll have time for Q&A. So with that, again, everyone, both here in our congregation as well as people who are watching from all throughout the world, I thank you all for being here with us for our wonderful live stream satsanga. And everyone, namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vansha Jayate.
Surya Vansha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Victory to the ever-growing, ever-expanding, undefeatable International Sanatana Dharma Society. Evam bhavatu. May such victory be so. And so it shall be. And with that, everyone, between now and the next time that we get together, I ask you all that in every way you please take very good care of yourselves.